What's up, guys? It's Will with King's Cards again. So today I am going to bring you my Voiceless voice deck that I got first place at the OTS championship that I went to yesterday on Saturday at the Hobby Hole up in Montgomery. There were 34 players there. I believe it was 5 rounds of Swiss, and then we played top 8, and then as soon as they got the top 4 situated with who got their invites and everything, they just called the tournament there. I didn't lose a match, so I was in first place, and I ended up getting this gorgeous mat. And so I do want to talk about this because I changed the list up a little bit from the last bigger tournament that I played Voiceless at, which was the Bainbridge Regional, which was, I think, like 3 weeks ago. If I'm not mistaken, it was like the exact weekend that Phantom Nightmare came out was the first weekend that I played it. And since then, I haven't really, I've tested the deck a little bit, and I've played it online just a little bit, but I've mainly just been focusing on testing the fire deck so I could be a little bit more efficient playing into them. And I kind of put this deck to the side a little bit, but I decided that this event would be a good time to bring the Voiceless deck back out because I thought that it was going to be like a smaller tournament. I had expected that it wasn't going to be that many people, but it turns out that I was wrong. There were people from Pensacola, Florida. There were people from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. There were people from all over the place who had come to this OTS championship. So it ended up being like a pretty, it was really top heavy as far as competition. There was good amounts of competition. It was a good tournament overall. I really enjoyed the scene that was going on there at Hobby Hole. It was a nice place. So this list and kind of the changes that I have made to it were just due to how the format has kind of changed with Pure Snake Eyes getting a bigger role, hand traps changing a little bit. And so I kind of wanted to reflect that with my main deck. So kind of the standard things is 3 low. This will never change. This is the best normal summon in the deck. This card's absolutely insane. And then 3 Saphira. Saphira also will always be a 3 of as long as she is at 3. This card's just absolutely incredible. Being able to put your ritual spells into the graveyard, add your ritual monsters back from the graveyard, or go search for them. This card's just absolutely incredible. It does everything that you need for the deck. Then 1 copy of the Old Man Saravis. This card's incredible. You only want to play this card at 1, never play more of that, because as soon as you get 1 in rotation, you're never going to need more than that. But this card is just absolutely incredible. It makes your grind game and managing your resources so easy with this deck when you just play 1 of this. Then for kind of supplementary normal summon, 3 copies of Diviner and 1 Trias. So I've seen that some people have cut this and they're playing the Nadir Servants, and I don't really understand that because the Nadir Servants lose to draw really, really hard. And I didn't want my deck to be super compromised by draw, because that is the one hand trap that this deck kind of does have a problem dealing with every now and again. There's some hands where you can just kind of play through a draw and you can just kind of chug through it. And then there's some hands that you just kind of lose to a draw. And I didn't want to put Nadir Servants into my deck, and then I'm just even more vulnerable to draw than I was. And also the other thing with this deck is that this deck is very weak when you don't have a normal summon. You need a powerful normal summon in this deck for you to be able to play the game. And having just 6 normal summons in the deck, and yes, you do have to play the Brick and Trias, but this card, when I open it in my hand, most of the time it never really comes up as a brick that much, because if you open it with low or diviner, so you have 6 cards in your deck that kind of supplement you opening this card, it's just so incredible, because especially if you open diviner and this going second, that's how I was breaking boards, popping floodgates, popping problematic cards all day long. Was it I would just go normal summon diviner. If they interact with it with an Imperm or a Veiler, you just get so much value then, because you can tribute the diviner off with the Trias, and then send the NTS, pop a card, and then your diviner is, when it goes to the grave and is tributed, you get to summon a low from the deck. So it was just really, really good. I think I'm always going to play 6 normal summons in this deck as long as they're available. And then for the rituals, I just played 2 Skull Guardian and then 2 Saravis. I don't really like the Odd Eyes Pendulum Graph Dragon. I think it's more of a side deck card that you could play for time. But I don't really understand playing time cards with this deck, because I think this deck it's really efficient at winning quick. And if you're gonna lose a game, you're normally gonna lose pretty quick, and because the only time when you're gonna lose a game is when you go second and you just don't open very well. If you're playing against the fire decks, even if you open 5 pieces of engine, you should be able to if it's 5 pieces of good engine, you should be able to contest their board really, really well. I did it several times yesterday. This card at 2, I had mentioned yesterday, and I've said this every time after I play a tournament with this deck, that I kind of want to play 3 of this card, because this card is just absolutely incredible right now. And then 2 Skull Guardian, I feel that's pretty standard. I don't want to play 3. Maybe if Droll becomes in just an absolute house in the format, I would consider bumping that card up to 3 just so I could see it all the time. but I don't know. We're just not in that format right now. Then 3 copies of Pre-Prep. It's a god card. You can play into Droll with this card, and it just doesn't matter because like after you resolve this card, you're good. Also, it adds from Grave, so there is that much. Like it helps you out in the grind game. Triple copies of Barrier. This card is so kind of what I did this weekend. I watched Steven Santoli's deck profile and kind of the way that he explained things, and then like playing on DB, I took it into practice there a little bit. That I wanted to this weekend just establish my trap card first before I ever established my spell card, and I thought that would just maybe take a chain of pace and do something a little different and see how it helped me out. And me prioritizing the trap card over prioritizing this made my plays so much smoother and gave me so much interruption before I had to like go into my plays and maybe like get another low and then low effect, then place the trap that way. I just wanted the interruption there at all times, just in case I needed it. 2 copies of the Ritual Spell. You have to play 2 of this because if something happens to one of them, then your entire deck just does not function. So you're going to want to play like minimum 2 of these. So, but I don't think you'll ever play more than 2. But it does kind of follow that same theory that I was saying with the Skull Guardian, that if Droll becomes so heavy in the format, I think you would think about like bumping that and Skull Guardian up to 3, but we're not in that format, so we're not going to worry about it right now. Then final, the 1 trap. This card is just so insane. Like I cannot like speak enough as to how good this card was for me, because I would always prioritize this over the Barrier, and it worked out so well for me just putting this card on the field before anything else, because this card is an extender, this card is interruption, whereas Barrier, like most of the time, if you're already playing the game and you already have combo, whatever this adds is just going to be like an extender, but this card just does so much more. So I just wanted to prioritize this card. Like sure, they can target my cards, but that's fine. And then for the non-engine, I only played 12, which was kind of different for me because especially when we're in a hand trap heavy format, I don't really want to get into hand trap wars with the fire deck. I just kind of want to like get into that like technical skill play matchup with the fire decks and hope that I can just take it from there. But I played triple Veiler, and then I'll show these because they're kind of in the same vein. Triple Imperm. These cards are so incredible this format right now. Like anytime you see Snake Eye Ash normal summon, you should be trying to Imperm or Veiler that. And that worked out for me pretty well a couple of times where my opponent would go normal summon Snake Eye Ash, I would Imperm it, and they would pass. They would have a bunch of hand traps, but this deck, when you open like Imperm plus 4 pieces of engine, if they don't have Droll in their hand, it is so hard for them to 1-for-1 trade with this deck, especially if you open like Saphira pre-prep. It's just so demoralizing that when you go lead pre-prep, and then they Ash that, and then you just go Saphira and you keep playing the game from there. So it gets really, like, this deck demoralizes people so well with the 1-for-1 trade hand traps, and that's why I like it so much. Triple copies of Ash Blossom. So this card, I always sided this card out when I was playing against Fire in Game 2s and Games 3s, because I just never want to give them an extender if I don't have to. And that worked out for me really, really well. And even when I was going second, I just felt that I didn't really need 12 hand traps because I thought that my engine was strong enough to just beat their board. Or at least if I didn't beat their board, I could like break it down and then build up my own board that can contest anything that they're going to do. Triple Nib, this is the best card in the game right now, so you absolutely have to play this at 3. Also, it's a light monster as high level, so you can use it as the ritual material. And then for the last 4 cards in the main deck, I played 3 copies of Branded Fusion and then 1 copy of Fallen of Albaz. So the theory behind this is that you don't really use this as like, you just go second against Fire and you just slap down Branded Fusion and you're just like, oh, I got a Mirror Jade. But that's not really the whole theory with this card. The theory with this card is that like it makes your weird hands really, really good, and it almost makes Branded Fusion feel like a cross out or a called by, so to say. So like when you're going second, if you go like normal summon Diviner and then they interact with Diviner with like an Ash or an Imperm or a Veiler, you can just go Branded Fusion and then you send the Albaz and you can send the Trias. Where is Trias at? So you'll send the Albaz, you'll send the Trias, and then you can go make Albion. And then if you don't need the light monster, then you can just go straight from Albion into Mirror Jade. But that's kind of all that you need to do, because then at that point, like, you just completely made whatever their interaction was on Diviner, like, useless all the way around, because then you can just go Trias effect, tribute the Diviner effect, and then you can summon the low from the deck and you still have full combo. Also, Branded Fusion helps you play through Droll in like some really weird situations. So one of those things was that like I had to lead off with Barrier, and I went Barrier, Search, Saphira, and I got Drolled on that. And so what I did was I went Branded Fusion, activated the Branded Fusion, and then I sent the Albaz and I sent the Skull Guardian And then I made the Albion, and then Albion, banish itself, banish the low, go make Lubellion, discard another card. And then, so you have a high-level light monster on the board, then you have Mirror Jade, and then you can go Saphira effect in hand, you pitch the Saphira, you go send prayers, and then you add the Skull Guardian back, and so then you can just go Saphira, banish the Saphira, ritual summon with this, and then you can go into Skull Guardian so you can get your plays started off that way. I really like that play. It was like the Fallen of Albaz engine was basically just like copies of Crossout. Not with like the fact that you're trying to negate your opponent's hand traps, you're just trying to play through them. And Branded Fusion was so powerful at playing through those hand traps because you're like you get the engine that you need into the graveyard, and then you also get a big body on field that is going to help you with like interruption during your opponent's turn. So I really enjoyed the branded package today. 40 cards flat. I didn't play Prosperity because, like I said, I don't want to play a card that I don't think is like super needed in this deck right now because this deck is so consistent the way that it is. And when you play Prosperity, it's like if you get Drolled, it is just such an awful card to sit in your hand. Like if you have to activate the Prosperity, there's not really much that you can grab that's going to help you play through a Droll after Prosperity. And then if you get Drolled and you were saving the Prosperity for the end of your turn to go digging, if you get Drolled, that Prosperity is just a dead card in your hand where Branded Fusion is not. So that's kind of my whole thought process there. So for the extra deck, so starting off, tokens, I played one Anima. I didn't play Link Rubo in my build this time just because I think the Anima was really the only Link one that I needed because this was the only one that ever really like did things. You don't need a Link Rubo like how the fire decks do to like keep dodging imperms and Veilers and everything, like any kind of like targeted interruption with this deck. So I just wanted to play the Anima. It's really good. You'll always like you every time you play in a tournament, if you're playing like 4 or 5 rounds, you are going to catch somebody slipping into the Anima zone. But also you can set your nib tokens up into the Anima zone and then get rid of the nib tokens that way with Anima. So it's just a super strong card. Double Dynamondo. I made this card like 3 times, and every time that I made this card, I had pretty much already secured the game. I just wanted to get rid of one more card because I couldn't kill him that turn. So I would just want to get rid of one more card that they had on the field and then put him in a top deck. And then that card came up that way. But like I said, we're still never going Dynamondo turn 0, ever, ever, ever. We're not playing in hand traps like that and just losing off of a bell. One dark. This came up a good couple of times for me when I was link climbing. But the extra deck is a little bit free in this deck. So I did have the choice of this. I didn't play Lina just because I didn't expect to play like mirror matches, and then I ended up playing 2 of them. But I don't think the Lina would have made a difference in my mirror matches at all. I think I was just winning with engine, and I didn't really need to go into my extra deck for that. IP, so there is that play. If you go look at Steven Santoli's video that he put up, you can do the play where you end on IP plus the Old Man Saravis and then spell Trap. And then it gives you, during your opponent's turn, you can summon another Skull Guardian off of that, bring the low back out, so then you'll have IP plus Skull Guardian plus the low with spell Trap. I never did that play yesterday, mainly because like I still play super conservative. It's always worked out in my favor with this deck to play super conservative and never overextend if you don't have to and play into a nib. And then SP Little Knight, I made this card just a couple of times. It's the best removal in the game right now, so card's absolutely incredible. One card that I did keep in from the list that I played last time is that I left in the Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos. Dude, this card is so incredible. I made it 2 times yesterday, and both of the times it was into the fire decks. When you make this card against the fire decks, it is just so difficult for them to answer this card because it just cannot be targeted when you make it with Skull Guardian or Saravis. And then every time this card attacks, you're either gaining attack points on this with 1500. I never really did that. I always just used the non-target banish 1 card on the field. And this card is just so powerful for that. But I did just kind of want like a powerful Link 3 monster that I can go into. And then I also wanted a generic Link 3 that I could go into that provided some kind of like removal for me. Because that is one thing this deck struggles with in the main deck. You have one good piece of removal in the main deck, and that is Radiance. But you can only use that removal once per duel because when that Radiance goes to the graveyard, you can't really get it back. So you kind of just want to have the Unicorn, and same thing with the SP. You just want to have removal, like invariance between your extra deck because you don't really have it in your main deck. So the Unicorn was a really good option as well. I made that a good couple of times. Then I played Underworld Goddess. It was an OTS championship. I would even play this for another regionals again. I think for a YCS, I don't think I would play this. Because I know what I'm walking into. But when you're playing in an event where you're going to be playing against some rogue decks that you really just have no clue what it could be against, it could be against Raid Raptors, it could be against Yubel decks, you could play against all these like rogue tier decks. And you really don't want to get caught off guard having like no answers to the Raid Raptor board at all. Even though this deck is really good into the Raid Raptor board because your monsters get bigger than theirs, you do want to have other answers outside of just going to battle phase with a 4100 attack guy. You do want to have Underworld Goddess, so I really like that card. Then for the fusions, I played one NTS. It's just a card that you play with the Diviner, and then I played one Herald of the Arclight. This card, like, I've played this in both lists for the Voiceless decks that I have played, and this card has never come up. Like, I have never sent this card off of Diviner. I even got somebody sent Dogmatica Maximus at the last regional, and I still just didn't send this card. So I don't know. I think I might cut that card, but I don't want to like be the guy that, like, you know, my Diviner gets hit when I'm going first, and then I have the Trius, and then I can send that and go get free pluses. But for the branded package, it was just one Albion, one Lubellion, and one Mirror Jade. So kind of what I think I want to do is that I want to bump the Mirror Jade up to 2, and I want to bump the Albion up to 2. And just so, like, my branded engine isn't just like a one-time thing, and I can use it like several times over, I would really like to do that. Because this engine is so powerful, but kind of like one thing that I notice is that, like, I can go make the Albion effect, banish itself, and Albaz, go into Lubellion, shuffle back the Albion and the Albaz, and then go into Mirror Jade, and then you can Mirror Jade banish, and then that's pretty much all you get out of it, and then you get a body on the field. So I feel like if I played the extra Albion, played another Mirror Jade, when I do those plays, and I can send another Albion, go get another branded fusion, then my branded fusion is live again. I think that would be really good, so I think I'm going to look into that. That is probably like one thing that I would change with this list. And then one Typhon, Second Chance, the card. I think everybody should probably be playing this card unless you're playing like Fire Kings. Pure Snake Eye can play that card really, really well, so I think I should still play that, but that Typhon's an incredible card. Side deck. So this is going to look a little wonky. It's not really what you would expect from a side deck, but like I said, it was an OTS championship. I would also like probably play the same side deck at a regionals as well, because I just want generic coverage when I'm playing against rogue decks, because you're not really going to be playing against Fire or Voiceless. That's pretty much it. Fire and Voiceless every single round. But it'll come up. I played Triple Mourner. I wanted a time card in my side deck. I never went to time. It never came up. I never even sided this card in. I'm probably going to take this out, play something a little bit more powerful. But it was there for time. It's not like it was the worst card in my side deck. I could imagine that it would have been pretty good into Fire in certain situations, but I just never really wanted to side this in over some of the other cards in the side deck. Then I played Triple Dark Ruler. So this is going to sound so funny, but the reason that I played this card is that, like, I was looking around the room before the tournament started, and I saw, like, there was a stun player, and I'm terrified of stun cards. Absolutely terrified. And then I saw a bunch of voiceless mirrors, and I was like, you know, I'm just going to put Dark Ruler in the deck. I don't want to play Droplet, just because I don't want to, like, lose my resources in my hand. So I think if I could just, like, 1-for-1 trade with the Voiceless board with the Dark Ruler, then I would be fine with that. It came up in round 1. I played the mirror in round 1, and it was good. And then in the last round, it didn't come up because I should have shotgunned it, but I didn't shotgun it, and then he ended up having anti-spell, so, you know, it is what it is. But this card was actually really good this weekend. I was surprised, because I don't think that card's actually that good, but I think it was good for what it was. 3 Cosmic. I think you have to play this in your side deck, and then you always have to side this card in going second, because if you don't, you're just going to get cooked by Summon Limits, Anti-Spells, and Solemn Strikes, so you just kind of have to play this card. It also is just really good removal in general, like for the Fire King Island and whatnot. Double Lightning Storm and a Feather Duster. Same thing, I just wanted kind of like good generic coverage against everything that was in the room. These cards are also just good against Snake Eyes and the Fire King deck, because if you're going second against them, if they're not playing Anti-Spell and they're playing Summon Limit, you can just go main phase and then activate Lightning Storm or Duster, call back row, and then you get rid of like Imperms, their Floods. If they're playing the Fire Kings, you get rid of the Island, and then the Island blows up their field. So you trade like really, really well with that. And then it's so easy to just beat through a Promethean Princess, and then like a Garunix with a Kieran Pop, and then the Arvada. It's pretty easy to beat through that. Then 3 Summon Limit. This was my Floodgate of choice. I don't really like Anti-Spell right now, because I think if you're a good Voiceless player, you can play through Anti-Spell really well. I lost a game yesterday in the mirror match in the last round to a Voiceless player, where he was playing Anti-Spell, and I had more than enough to break his board. I had broken his board, but what I was trying to do was diminish his resources down, and I was trying to get rid of every card on his field except for his Anti-Spell, and then I was going to put him under his own Anti-Spell with 2 cards in hand. And while I was trying to do that, I made a bit of a misplay, and when I summoned the SP and then I targeted a card of his to banish, I targeted the wrong one, and then I targeted the Skull Guardian, and then he banished the Prayers, and then I chained SP to banish the low, and then he still had a resource on field, so it kind of messed up my plan that I was going for there by just sticking him with the with anti-spell with 2 cards in hand, and then I would have like the Skull Guardian, the low, the barrier, and then the radiant. But misplays happen. It doesn't matter like how long you've been playing the game, you're going to misplay at some point. It's just like as long as you come out on top at the end of that and you understand your misplays, then you're good. Okay, but yeah guys, so this was the deck. If you guys like what you see, you can give the video a like, subscribe, check down in the comments, leave a comment down below. I'm always open to constructive criticism. I love having like I love interacting down in the comment section with you guys. So yeah, just let me know what your thoughts are on this deck. I'm kind of constantly making changes to this deck because I think there's things that can always be changed as the format develops, because I think we all know that deck choices, tech choices, how people like choose to go their routes with like technical play, that changes on a daily basis. And so with that being said, like side deck choices, main deck choices, that's always changing. So I'm always trying to evolve with this deck as much as possible. And then as far as this week, we've got the regional next Saturday, and then I put up a poll earlier today on the channel where I wanted to do a thing where I let you guys choose what deck that I play at the regional. So if you want to, you can go choose a deck on there, and you know, if one of those is a deck that you like, maybe it'll be the one that I take to the regionals, and hopefully we can get a top with it. But all right guys, so we will see y'all in the next one. Thank you.